Hey, it is Friday. I hope you guys have had a fantastic start to your day. And of course, jumping in with today's live video on are you an inspirer or controller? And this is kind of a cool one because I think we can all be or one of each of those at many times in our life as well. Hey Marguerite, so great to have you on, honey. Can't wait to see you later this morning. And this is such a powerful one because I think at times we can feel really exasperated or really frustrated. Good morning, good morning. Say a big hello if you're jumping on here. Let me know where you're from. Send me some love. Hey Jamie, hey Erica. Hey Allison, great to have you on. Hey Kylie, sorry, just adjusting my screen so I can see everybody. So great to have you all on here. And of course, relationships can be one of those situations, I guess, that really can get us a little bit unraveled at times. They can really trip us up emotionally. We can feel really frustrated or annoyed or just irritated by what's going on within our certain relationships. So this could be relationships with children, it could be relationships with parents, it could be relationships with work colleagues, it could be relationship with staff if you own your own business, it could be relationships with or relationship with your intimate partner, hopefully not relationships, although obviously, you know, that does work for some people. Certainly it's not my preference, but no judgment around any of that. But at the end of the day, we're talking about relationships and what really bugs us most about relationships, and what can be really difficult in relationships, and how do you have two separate people that perhaps have different ideas about things, or different needs, different wants, different desires, and how do you make that work? And again, you know, if our values are two separately different, this is not what I was going to talk about, but I think it's important to touch on this as well because this can really impact things at a deeper level as well. So I'll just okay, I will yes, I was just looking at Marguerite's message. Yes, 2AAA FM guys at 10:40, I think. Yeah, I'm certain that it's 10:40. So hey Sandra, lovely to have you on as well too, Dylan. So jumping back to what I was talking about before, is that our relationships really can trip us up. And I think that what actually goes on is that we can get really frustrated. We've all got different desires, we've all got different needs, different wants, and sometimes very, very different values. Now, if you're in an intimate relationship, and this was certainly true for me, if you're in an intimate relationship and your values are extraordinarily different to that of your partner, honestly guys, it's going to be a tough road, you know, and maybe it's worth having a chat about what it is that you both actually do really want in relationship, and what your ideal relationship actually looks like, in terms of if you're a traveler and an adventurer, or you want to grow or you want to expand, and your partner is not interested in that at all. It's really difficult to obviously find even some common ground around that. I know this was true for me in my former relationship, and we came together, we first met when I was 16, so I was still obviously developing a lot of my values. I had no clue around you know, any of that stuff. It was just like, oh, he likes me, okay, cool. So that was like my kind of relationship filter. Obviously, you know, the older that we get, with a little bit more self-awareness, self-knowledge, all of those things behind us. But ultimately, if your values are significantly different, if one partner values their health so much and values perhaps you know, creating wealth or financial wealth and well-being, if the other partner is really flippant about that or really doesn't care about that, you know, there's some pretty big things. And you know, or maybe you've got one partner that really values money and the other partner that really values family, and so it will be an ongoing conflict in your relationship that will be really hard to find a common ground if your values are completely different. But putting that aside, if that's not what's kind of going on, we really do have such an incredible opportunity in relationship to heal self, and to also inspire the best from others. And this is what I'm really wanting to speak about today. Hey James, lovely to have you on. And so powerful to be able to step into this position, because if you're angry, if you're frustrated, if you're annoyed, if you're agitated, irritated by somebody's behavior, I can promise you, you are either allowing yourself to be controlled or you're trying to control the other. Now, those two things are literally the same side, different sides of the same coin. If you feel controlled by somebody, I can promise you, and I did not like hearing this when this was happening in my own life, but I can promise you, if you're feeling controlled, you are actually trying to control somebody else's behavior as well. You can't have one without the other, because it's the pushing against, it's the resistance, and it's the frustration of where you're both feeling, and you're both feeling like the other needs to be different so you can feel okay, or so that you can feel happier within yourself. And I can promise neither will lead to a happy outcome. All you'll end up doing is exhausting yourself and depleting your own energy in that process. And sometimes, you know, we can have very long going or ongoing family feuds where, you know, you're annoyed at someone for doing this, or you're deeply hurt, or there's some deep resentment, all of those things. And all of this comes about from blaming somebody else for the way that we feel, and it will always keep us powerless and always keep us trapped within that particular situation. You will never find your own personal freedom, joy, happiness, whilst ever you're focused on that particular situation or that particular person, if that's the emotion that you're actually feeling at the time. Now, that's not to say that obviously, you know, things can happen in life, or people can do things and we do feel let down, or we do feel hurt, or we do feel frustrated by some of those things. Often there's a miscommunication because of, we're actually not communicating effectively either our needs or our silent expectations. And with family, family is one of the hardest types of relationships to actually release ourselves from, to actually be able to feel fully free. And you know that you've done a truckload of work on yourself if you're able to be fully yourself and just completely comfortable, calm, happy, joyous amongst your family. Now, that's not to say that you don't love them or you don't care about them or anything else, but often we get very, very triggered by family because we tend to have stronger rules and expectations about how they should behave or what they should be doing. Guys, all of that stuff is our own judgment, our own beliefs that we're now projecting onto somebody else about how they should behave or what they should be doing with their life, or how they should be operating in their life, or how they should be communicating, or blah, 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 blah. And the whole time we're projecting that stuff, we are giving them our own medicine. That's our own rules. And maybe those rules are working for you, maybe they're not. And quite often we've picked up those rules very unconsciously, normally between the ages of 0 to 7, as we've been children, and we've been observing who we need to be, how we need to be in the world in order to fit in and belong and be accepted. Now, those tribal beliefs within our family are some of the hardest to shift or change as well. Hey Jackie, great to have you on, darling. So this can again keep us quite stuck when we're believing, no, I have to be that way, or this is just who I am. We all have the capacity to change, to grow, to shift our beliefs and things like that. But quite often we'll have bought into that belief. We believe that to be true, and this is just the way that it is. And with such a strong belief, now we look for the evidence in the external world to support that. So if you have a belief that people always let me down, then of course that is going to continue repeating and happening. And this is where we buy into fear, we buy into scarcity, we buy into powerlessness, and therefore want to exert control over another. And this is where we step into authoritarian parenting as parents sometimes, when we're really fearful for our child's safety or for their well-being or any of those things. I'm not saying the intent underneath doesn't come from pure love, but it's actually a fear-based action of trying to control our children. Perhaps you're frustrated or annoyed if they're not picking up their stuff, or they're not cooperating, or being a helpful team player within the family, or team player within their school, or with their friends and things like that. And so when we're coming from that place of fear or anger or frustration or annoyance, we're actually trying to control somebody, and when we're doing that, it's like, you need to be different so I can feel better. And a lot of the time we're in blame around that as well. So you'll know, and I can be a controller, and I can also be an inspirer or a powerful influencer as well. And I know exactly when I'm doing each of those, because when I'm being an inspirer and a powerful positive influencer, we can be an influencer obviously in negative and positive ways, but when I'm being a powerful positive influencer, I feel great. I feel aligned with myself. I feel full of love. I feel full of appreciation for the person that I'm communicating with or that I'm wanting to inspire. I see the best in them, and it may not be how they're entirely behaving at that particular time, but I know underneath the behavior that person is an amazing person, and that they've got so much more within them than perhaps they're actually exhibiting at the time. Now, whether they've got the capacity or the emotional ability to be able to step into being the fullest version of themselves in this lifetime, that's up to them. That's not our job. That is not our journey to fix others or to make others better or to change others or anything else. However, you have such a powerful opportunity to inspire the best or to elicit the best in others by seeing the best in others. Now, that's not an easy thing to do sometimes. If somebody's really got your attention, or somebody's in a really, really negative space at the time, again, it's looking beyond the behavior and actually seeing them as a whole person. And again, this is where guilt and shame come in, and no doubt we've been guilted or shamed from others, but also we do that to ourselves. And the difference, or the distinguishing difference, as defined by Brene Brown, which I love, like a lot of her work. Hey Joe, great to have you on. Hey Jody, hey Chris, lovely to have you on. Hey Naomi, hey Helen, lovely to have you on. Hey Nicole, lovely to have you on as well. Where we go like with this, the guilt and the shame, the difference is guilt is I did something wrong, shame is I am wrong. So when we're seeing ourselves as not worthy or not okay, and then we're feeling controlled by others, now we're completely powerless internally, and it doesn't feel great. You'll know that because you'll feel scared, you'll feel insecure, you'll feel unworthy, you'll tell yourself you're not enough, or you need to be better, or you need to be more perfect, or you need to be this, or you need to be that. In some way, you're believing that you need to be different in order to be accepted, belong, fit in, loved, worthy of great things, or deserving of great things. Now, this is kind of really what trips us up. And so when somebody else, and I'm explaining it obviously from this perspective so we can also see it and know what it feels like, because no doubt you will have had people in your life that do see the best in yourself, or appreciate the best, or they see the little things that you do, or the big things that you do, and they appreciate those, they comment on those, or they let you know that's they really love that aspect of yourself. Now, and of course, when we feel that, we're like, yeah, that's who I am. And we step into that because we always become that which, I guess, what others expect of us. And now if somebody's angry towards us or frustrated, they're not going to get the best of us. Of course, we're going to push back against that because that is our natural instinct, unless you've done a lot of self-awareness work and you have a lot of your own emotional intelligence where you can remain stable within yourself no matter what. Hey, Jan, lovely to have you on. So it's so important to know your own emotions and to know your own trigger points, know your own guilt or shame triggers, of what kind of trips you up regularly, because it will help you to remain much more stable, where then you can actually flip the tide, so to speak, where now you get to be the inspirer and the influencer, because when you're connected to your own love, when you're connected to your own security, when you feel confident, when you feel secure in yourself, when you've connected to the best part of you, which is your higher self, your inner being, the truest version of you, now you can inspire people from that place, because they'll feel the genuine love or appreciation that you have for them in that moment. And this is where we can really co-create or collaborate with people in such a wonderful, joyous way. Whereas when we're like, well, they need to be smarter, or they need to be not so lazy, or they need to be more organized, or they need to be more punctual, or they need to, when we're communicating from that, we're communicating with anger, we're communicating with frustration, and the other person can feel that, and it doesn't feel good for them. Therefore, they're going to push back because now they're feeling controlled by you, and they're also feeling that they want to control you back because you're not being a nice person, and you're not being this, or you're not being that. So, moral of the story is, guys, self-love and emotional mastery is the key to all of this. The more you are connected with your own sense of self, your own self-love, your own self-worthiness, your confidence, all of that, which is really, in truth, who we actually really are. And at our absolute core truth, we are absolute love. We are not fear. We're not our ego survival mind. We're not all the concepts or the beliefs or the constructs that our ego survival mind has about who people need to be, how they need to behave, or what they should be doing, what they shouldn't be doing. It's one of the greatest things that trips us up, because people will do whatever people do, and it will always leave us feeling out of control when we're focused on who somebody else is being. Honest to God, like, it's the biggest lesson for me, because like, you can't control that. So of course it's going to make you feel out of control, therefore make you want to try and control them. And it's as much as, you know, I've done this work inside out, back to front, upside down, you know, for years now, and I still notice that sometimes that need within me to try and control others. And I'm much faster. Like, I lived in it for years, like lived in it. I was so resentful and so angry that people wouldn't do what I thought they should. So silly, like, when we think about it, but like, this happens all the time as well. Hey Clarice, great to have you on. Hey Eloisa, great to have you on. So it leaves us feeling so frustrated and so kind of split in our energies, and not aligned with the higher self of us. And self-love, in truth, you can't be angry at somebody else and be loving who you are, because if you're angry at somebody else, I can promise you, you're judging them in some way, which is just a projection of your own judgment about yourself, about who you need to be or not need to be. Now, in truth, we are the shadow and the light. We are the good and the bad, the positive, the negative. Like, we're all of that, and we've all had, you know, negative days or very human moments where we feel insecure, we feel angry, feel frustrated. It's not to say that any of that stuff is wrong. It's just knowing that we have full choice in every moment how to come back to and release responsibility from needing others to be different so we can be okay. When we're holding others responsible for how we feel, it will always leave us powerless, and that's what makes us feel out of control, and therefore we try to control back. Therefore, then we're yelling or we're impatient at the kids, you know, why aren't you organized? Why aren't you getting ready? Why aren't you, you know, like all of that stuff. And parenting's been the greatest self-development course for me that there's ever been. Because I realize, like, when I inspire my kids to have the best of them, and sometimes that's just stopping, pausing, having a 30-second. I used to do this when I used to have to be out the door. I work from home now. I have a very flexible lifestyle. But years ago, when they were like little, they're 17, 18, both in full-time jobs and everything now, but when they were little, and I used to have to try and get them to school and then get to my client appointments on time and everything else, I'd be so stressed. So I'd be angry, I'd be tense, I'd feel insecure, or you know, like unable to get them into the car at times. And a lot of the time it was because I was actually running late. I was so focused on who they were being and what they were doing, I wasn't actually getting my stuff together and being organized that I needed to be. But what I found worked like just a treat was just stopping, breathing, and would just do like a 10-second visualization of us all getting in the car, feeling happy, feeling joyous, and celebrating the fact that we were all on time. Everyone was like all connected and loving, which felt amazing to me. And from that place, I got to inspire the best from my kids, because I would communicate much more effectively. Instead of screaming or yelling, I'd be like, hey guys, like, where are you up to? What do you need help with? I would make sure that I would get ready on time first, so I was fully available to help my kids in whatever capacity capacity that they needed. And I think that that's a huge learning curve as well. It's like oxygen mask, whatever you're asking from others, make sure, are you doing that? Are you living with integrity? And are you communicating effectively? Are you communicating with anger or frustration, or are you communicating with love and joyous, I guess, happiness of whether they do that thing or whether they don't? You get to choose to be happy anyway, and that's where people feel fully free and they feel fully inspired to come and join you in the party, because you're so much fun and you're so loving, and they just like they can't help but be inspired by your actions or by who you're actually being. And somebody that's connected to their full power, and that means loving self and appreciating the best or seeing the best in others, and even if that is something as basic as I like their hair. Now that might sound simplistic and silly to say that. Hey Paula, hey Jerry. Might sound simplistic to say that, yet if you are focused on even just one thing that doesn't produce a resistant feeling or anger or frustration in you, now you're fully connected back to your source energy, you're connected back to your higher self, you're connected back to self-love, because who you are is absolute love. And if you're feeling anything other than love in that moment, then you've disconnected yourself from the truest power that you are, because you are absolute love. And this is where, like, when we're connected to our own love, now we have the power to influence millions. We have the power to subtly influence so many situations, because you see it as just working out well. You are the creator of your own world. You are the creator of your own reality. And a lot of us have, or pretty much all of us have, habitual emotions, unless you're actually challenging some of those emotions. If you've been living in anger, frustration, powerlessness, or feeling like a victim of the world, and guys, like, there's no judgment. I lived there for years. If you've been in that space for a long time, then you've got habitual emotion around it, and you won't feel that you can jump to love, appreciation, or gratitude all in one hit or really fast. You may have moments of that, but what I found is, for me personally, it's been a gradual process over the years, and I know how well that I'm being able to maintain that vibration by what is showing up in my life. So if I've ran a pattern of guilt or shame, which has been like a past pattern of my own, then, you know, I'll have evidence of that. I'll have people that are guilting me. I'll have people that want to shame me. I'll have feedback in my world. Now, where or what trips us up the most is if you can't get your eyes off that, if you believe that they've asserted themselves or they've done that to you, if you're not taking full responsibility for how you've attracted that, you will continue attracting that, continue pushing against that, and continue feeling like a victim, powerless, frustrated, or anger. You must take personal responsibility for where you've made yourself sticky internally by doing reflective work in where are you not appreciating you, where have you guilted you or shamed you, and even if that is accepting what somebody else has said to you, they don't have that power. You're giving them, you're allowing them that power by buying into that belief, and it could not stick if there wasn't a part of you on some level. Maybe it's only 5% of you, mightn't be all of you, but it might only be 5% internally that believes that thought, but 5% is enough to actually allow that thought to penetrate, and now you're believing a part of what that person's actually said to you, and now you're having an emotional reaction. If somebody said you've got rainbow colored hair, unless you do have rainbow colored hair, you know, you wouldn't be bothered by that statement because you know it's not true. And so this is where a lot of the time people, and we have such an opportunity in relationship, because people can push those little buttons, and God, some people know how to push them. They know exactly those trigger points because it's still an open wound for you. And when you can recognize that as feedback, as, hey, I've got a little bit more cleaning up to do, a little bit more self-love to do, a little bit more just feeling better within myself to do, hey, I'm not going to blame them for this situation. I've attracted this situation. I'm going to take full responsibility for it, and I'm going to clean myself up so I'm no longer a magnet and no longer attracting that into my life. And honestly, that has you step into greater and greater influence, greater and greater power, because it's never about power over another. And that's the greatest difference with being either a controller or an influencer or an inspirer. When you're being a powerful, positive influence and inspirer, you are connected to your own power and you're inspiring people from that place by expecting the best from them. When you're in control, trying to control people or trying to control situations, circumstances, or even yourself, you're disconnected from your own power and you're scrambling to get power over something or someone else, because you're so disconnected from your own energy or from the truest sense of who you actually are, that now you're trying to get power from another. And this is where we end up in arguments. This is where we end up in unresolved conflicts that go on for years and years and years, because we keep giving our own internal power away to a situation by blaming it or blaming the person for making us feel a particular way. Nobody has the capacity, nobody has the ability to make you feel a particular way unless you allow it. And this is where we need to set clear boundaries for ourselves. If somebody, if it doesn't feel good to be around somebody, then, step away from that situation, set those boundaries, but you don't have to do it with defense, knowing full well that you are the attractor of the situation by what you've got going on internally. I was so negative. I hated myself so much. I couldn't help but attract criticism, non-appreciation, blame, guilt, shame, all of those things in my younger years. And, over 10 years ago, I was living a very, very unhappy life. And so I couldn't help. Everything was kind of snowballing and avalanching. And I was in so much blame because I was in so much shame and pain. And when we're in shame, we tend to blame because it helps us to take us out of shame, which can feel better, because shame is one of the most painful emotions that we have as humans. It's really like the bottom of the barrel in terms of worthlessness. It's a very difficult emotion to experience, and I felt loads of it in my life. It's when we feel ostracized, or when we feel that we don't fit into a group. We can have a shame around our body. We can have shame around how intelligent we are, or how if we feel that we're not smart enough, we can be shamed for that. There's so many different ways that we can have shaming behavior placed upon us, because it was a way that people could control through fear. And I think as we shift into greater and greater consciousness, greater and greater understanding of how to actually really truly create change in the world, we have to first love ourselves, and then we can inspire others and literally attract the best from everybody around us. And you'll know that when that's happening, because you'll look around in your life and you'll go, my God, I've got so many happy people around in my life. And if that's not happening for you at the moment, don't go into blame. Try not to go. Get curious. Curious serves us so well. It's like, fascinating stuff, because when we get hooked into a story of, oh, well, I'm just not good enough, or here I go again, or look at my life, or any of that stuff, it only serves to keep us more and more stuck. Good morning, Katie. Great to have you on. Hey, Connie. Lovely to have you on. And hey, Ellen. So really powerful stuff, guys. Stepping into knowing full well, when are you in controller, when are you an influencer, and you have the ability to shift and change that in any moment by connecting back to your own internal power, asking yourself, what is it that I desire, and how would I feel if I was already creating that, or if I already was living that. And by that, you're getting ahead of what it is that you're actually creating. And this is where, if you've had somebody that's technically been a negative person in the past, or can be a little bit negative at times, when you see the best in them before you connect with them, before you meet with them, before you see them, if you've got a child that's going through a situation, or if you've got a work colleague that tends to be a little bit negative, get ahead of the situation, and you will notice you're being a different person. You're reacting and responding differently to that person when you actually connect with them, and therefore you elicit a different response from them. And it's incredible how this actually plays out. It is so powerful, and it lights my heart up every single time I get the feedback around, yes, I'm being a powerful influencer, because I know that I'm contributing more love, more acceptance, more joy, and helping people not only see the best in themselves, but me seeing the best in them, which means I'm seeing the best in myself as well. And it feels amazing and incredible to be living that way. So it's not there that I'm there all the time. Of course, I have ups and downs. I'm human, just the same as everybody else. I've got my old triggers. Like I said, I move out of those so much faster than what I ever did. And sometimes I still get tripped up. So it's not a one-time certificate. It's an in-the-moment thing. It's an in-the-moment. Am I truly appreciating this person? Or what's one thing that I could focus on, that I could love, like, or appreciate about this self? And doing that exercise about yourself also will help to increase your greater levels of self-love. Because the more negative that we are, or the more judgmental that we are around others, means we're being really, 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 really harsh and critical on ourselves. It's generally we've beaten ourselves up pretty bad, and so we can't help but obviously be that way with other people. And so whatever we're judging in others, guys, it's honest to God what we're judging the most in ourselves. So time to set yourself free, love you, find the best in others, find the best in yourself, and have an amazing rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in. I truly hope that's been helpful. Loads of love and gratitude to you all. And if this has been helpful, please like, love, or share it with a loved one, that you can both, maybe be inspirers for each other as well. And it's a really wonderful relationship when you both are growing at that level and are able to inspire the best from each other as well. And of course, if that's actually happening, your relationship is just going to continue to elevate rather than be a downward spiral as to what actually happens normally in a lot of relationships. Because initially when we meet somebody, hey Lee, great to have you on. Hey Cecilia, great to have you on as well. Thank you so much, Erica. Have a wonderful day as well too, darling. And yeah, what I was just about to say was, when we generally meet somebody for the first time, we have a lot less resistance, and we tend to look for the best in them. And as time goes on, then we start to get a little bit bugged by if they're running late, or if they're not behaving in a particular way, or they're quite judgmental around something. Like, we'll get our eyes on something. Sometimes it's really difficult to take our eyes off that, in which case you'll be attracting more and more and more and more of that behavior, which creates the downward spiral. So knowing full well you get the opportunity at any point to reinvigorate a past relationship or a current relationship that perhaps hasn't been feeling so great, just by focusing on one thing that you could like, love, or appreciate about that person. Have an amazing day. Loads of love. Bye.